What's going on? My name is Brainsmasher, and you're subscribed to a drunken special edition of the Stupid Old Collection Update. Thank you for joining me. Focus on point. I had some friends over tonight. We've been drinking around the campfire. It's been a good time. They all went home. We stayed safe, socially distant, wore masks most of the time. Had a good time. But I'm drunk and I felt like, what should I do with this extra drunkenness? Shoot a video. Shoot a collection update. You can always shoot a collection update. Next week at work is going to be insane. I'm going to be working a lot of extra overtime, so I need to have a video in the bag ready for you to fire off. So we're going to get a little spicy with some of these albums that I've bought in the past few whatevers. I'm pretty backlogged, honestly, on a lot of my collection update stuff, so I'm just kind of like sifting through the stuff and giving you some goodies and some not so goodies and whatevers. We're all just here to hang out and talk about records, right? The little squares. We're all crazy about our squares. In the background, over my shoulder, the nefarious, unholy offerings of Finland's Dark Woods, My Betrothed. This is Heirs of the North Star. I want you to love this album as much as I do. And I love it a lot. So I hope you love it. I hope you love it more than me talking about all these other albums that I bought in the last few weeks. Because it fucking rules. It's got the riffs. It's got the howling, shouting, like mountaintop to mountaintop kind of reverby vocals where it sounds like black metal should. Sometimes the vocals are really bad and it makes you think, wow, maybe I should just pay more attention to the riffs because they're really good. Came out in '95. This is actually coming out on LP quite soon, limited to 350 copies. I want to say it's like self-release slash like co-release with some podunk fucking label or whatever. Get on that shit right away. Yeah, you know what to do. So, I've been getting some killer stuff in. Haven't had time to listen to a lot of it. So, I'm gonna give you some hot fucking takes on some of this stuff, regardless of how much I've listened to it. Like an irresponsible metal YouTuber ought to, right? So, when I was first getting into metal, Sepultura were one of the most important bands in my whole sphere. And at that time, the entry point with Sepultura was Bloody Roots. Roots, Bloody Roots. Which is an album that doesn't fucking hold up whatsoever. I moved on back to KSAD. That album, honestly, I think, in my opinion today, holds up. But I moved backward and backward to Beneath the Remains. Even the other couple. I've got them, but I don't really listen to them all that often. When I think of Sepultura, I think Arise, Beneath the Remains are like your core, but I had neglected their early material until a couple of days ago. A friend of mine, who is a fellow subscriber, was selling Schizophrenia on CD, and I decided I need to pick up a copy of that on the cheap. And holy shit, dude, this rules. I don't know how I've lived without this in my collection for so long. I don't know, it's kind of hard to talk about Sepultura's discography about like elevating one record above another. They have kind of a diversity and a progression in their discography that has a lot to offer. From the primitive beginnings of Schizophrenia, and oh my god, this is, I kind of wish I was just drinking it alone and listening to this by myself, but hanging out with you fuckers. Anyways, Schizophrenia is now in my collection and I am fucking stoked on it. A couple of bonus tracks, since this is a Roadrunner reissue from '97, I guess. This is in excellent condition for being 23 years old, but man, how did I live without this in my collection for so long? What are the two? I don't know. I've got all the other stuff. We don't need to go over all of that. In my Bandcamp rundown, maybe the last one, something like that, I talked about this Avsky full length. Just got this in last night. One of those records that has kind of like a primitive scene painting or realistic scene painting from a certain period where it shows peasant folk struggling in a farm field, which tells you that it sounds like post-black metal mixed with traditional pagan sort of European black metal. One of those kinds of things. This is great, but I feel like you are supposing a bit more than you ought to by portraying your album with a cover of some poor people in the 1800s or 1600s or whatever in early Europe, and putting this on your album cover. I'm not slacking on this thing whatsoever. It's a really, really great album, and I spent a decent penny getting this copy in, and I already reviewed it, so I'm kind of giving you my dumbass hot take on it. It's called Ofte Jeg drømmer mig død, which is Often I Dream of My Death, in Danish, if I'm not mistaken. Avsky is a solo project of the drummer from Soul Brood, which is also pretty fucking amazing. Furious, riffy, kind of posty, modern-ish kind of black metal, kind of like Dirtbag Under Freiheit, if that's up your alley. Vendetta Records put this out. I don't know, I've never heard of Vendetta Records as far as I know. So had this imported, waited months for it. Stoked to finally have a physical copy of it. One of the top releases of 2020. And having a top release in a dismal fucking garbage dumpster fire of a year is something, I suppose. Next we've got the new one from Conjureth. Focus, please. Yeah. The Levitation Manifest. These guys rule, and they dropped this all of a sudden 4-song EP CDR-ish demo on us on a Bandcamp Friday, and everybody was like, I didn't know that was coming out. I believe they're working on a full length. Side note, also both this and the previous release, Foul Formations, are now available on fucking Kill Records out of Germany for pre-order, limited to a number of copies. This is a California death metal band, friend of mine, long time. It's good stuff. It's old school, but it's kind of modern. It's not aping anything noteworthy, honestly. It's just fucking great. Super riffy. The drummer is super complicated and interesting. I'm really stoked on what these guys are doing, and really excited for the future of what they're doing. Having said that, I haven't listened to this yet, so I don't know how to compare it to the previous demo, Foul Formations, but I kind of like it, honestly, when a band is just like out of fucking nowhere drops a 4-song demo on you and you're like, shit, I gotta get that. It's fun. Cruising around on Instagram the other day, and somebody called this the greatest doom metal record ever recorded. And my interest was piqued. This is a band that I've tried to get into before, and it just kind of didn't take. But I thought, okay, buddy of mine's got good taste. I'll take him on his word. Found a copy of it for $8 or something. Double CD for $8. So what do you got to lose? Anyways, we're talking about Reverend Bizarre, So Long Suckers. I believe this was their swan song release. So Finland is like really the country of origin that you can count on for excellent, top quality. Here's those bad vocals that I'm talking about that make you go, riffs, huh? Kind of ignore those vocals. Anyways, Reverend Bizarre, they're good. They're good, but they're not my thing whatsoever. They're playing something that's more of a progression of stuff out of the 70s, a little bit more traditional than what I'm used to, and it's good. It's for a generation, and maybe from a generation, of bands that I am just bored with. Not for any reason that I'm like oversaturated by the style necessarily, because I honestly don't listen to stuff like this very much. It's well-written songs, it's great heavy metal with a huge tone and slowed down, lots of chunkiness and stuff going on, well-written and arranged songs. I just cannot bring myself to give a shit about this kind of thing, because there isn't anything beyond the music that is being offered here. The music is, it's so familiar. Like, I feel like it's so predictable that I already know what's gonna happen at every turn. And like, there's a lack of cleverness. There's a lack of depth to it. There's no like additional atmosphere or anything going on. And I realize like this isn't really trying to be that kind of thing, but there just isn't a whole lot to offer for me on this thing. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time breaking it down much further than that. I've listened to disc 1, I got sick of it and took it out. I don't regret buying it. There might become a time where I get older and I start to respect this kind of thing maybe more, but right now, didn't do it for me. Let's move on to totally something completely different. Brodekin with Methods of Execution. There you are, kind of mostly. So I kind of see these guys popping up on a lot of brutal death metal, kind of grindcore sort of feeds on Instagram here and there. And so I was checking out one of their albums, probably their debut. I think they only have 3 full lengths, if I'm not mistaken. And I listened to one of them and I was like, this drummer fucking annihilates his kit, and I like this. But I kind of want some riffs out of this band. So I listened to another one of their albums, and it was kind of more of the same. I want to say it was their second album. And it was good, but like wasn't giving me exactly what I wanted out of this band. Drummer fucking, don't get me wrong, annihilates. And sometimes all you really need out of grindcore is a nice heavy guitar tone and a drummer who can blast like a fucking beast, and you're good. Or like some punky slide riffs, and that's all you need. But so thankfully I listened to these guys' third album, Methods of Execution. And this thing delivers in tone, and it actually has like consumable, audible riffing going on. And that was where I was like, all right, perfect. These guys haven't like progressed out of the pocket that they were establishing from their debut any further than having like a more audible guitar tone, which is exactly what I needed out of them. So I enjoyed this. It's super fucking visceral, violent, just grimy, fucking nasty, gore-ridden, blasty kind of grindy death metal. Fun stuff. Just visceral, instant cake, frosting on the cake kind of deal. Brodekin. You should all know Brodekin, I think, but I feel like a lot of people lean towards the first one, maybe 2, but aren't as aware of this third one, which is the most preferable one, if I'm being honest. So, also sold to me as the same guy who sold me the Sepultura. Appreciate it, dude. I had seen this come up in a lot of like, I don't know. When I'm not listening to records, I'm fucking following Instagram feeds that talk about old stuff. I'm watching YouTube videos, people talking about old records. Somehow I see this album come up a lot, and it has always eluded me. But this dude was selling maybe his whole collection, some of it, I'm not sure. But he hooked me up with a reissue copy of Hazael Thor. Dark Descent reissued this in 2014. And I'm honestly kind of surprised, even though I was aware of it, it was on my radar. I'm honestly surprised there aren't a lot more people talking about how fantastic this album is. It's got a cheesy fucking dumb ass album cover. I'm not holding that against anybody, honestly, for the time period that this came out. I want to say 94. I want to say 94 because it did come out in 94. This fucking rules. Kind of death doom. It's certainly very of its time. I'm not sure if these guys ever did anything else, but this is fantastic. Super well thought out songwriting. It's not boring. It's got a lot of cool ideas going on. I really enjoyed this. Like, I could tell you a whole lot about this band or album, but nothing is going to tell you more than the puffy sleeves on this guy's shirt. You know what I'm saying? That's what it sounds like. I'm not lying. Also picked up this reissue of Beherit's The Oath of Black Blood. I had always had a, well, like, every version of this, honestly, was a bootleg up until, maybe up until this point. You could really go back and forth about it, but I had a bootleg of it. Not sure what version or whatever. It didn't matter. Forever and ever and ever. Beherit is a band that I've always kind of had a weird relationship with. Drawing Down the Moon, their best album, kind of took a long time to click with me. It wasn't until maybe 3-5 years ago or something where it really finally hit me exactly where it needed to, and I figured out how to, how to understand it. Not to say that it's complex or anything, but to understand its relevance, its influence, etc. Drawing Down the Moon is an amazing album. Engram is only slightly less amazing because they kind of already did that with Drawing Down the Moon. The Oath of Black Blood, which I think a lot of people kind of consider their maybe another notable release, let's just say, is actually just a compilation of their Dawn of Satan's Millennium demo, as well as a 7-inch Goat something or other. And honestly, replacing my bootleg version of this, it's okay. I like supporting Nuclear War Now, releasing relevant and pertinent releases, and doing such a nice job with the artwork and staying true to the original kind of stuff going on, and adding additional kind of stuff. So, like, I'm ordering from Nuclear War Now fairly regularly. There's a nice history and some old flyers and photos in this, so, like, this deserves your money quite a bit. Even if The Oath of Black Blood is not that groundbreaking or memorable of a release, in the tape trading days, it is hard to understate how influential this was on a lot of American, South American, Canadian, and European bands. But it just maybe hasn't aged well. It just kind of has a more iconographic history to it than how, like, listenable and noteworthy it actually is for what it is. Yeah, hot take. Let's see. Faceless Burial are from Australia, and they first came onto my radar when Paul Riedel from Blood Incantation was talking about how this is a fucking amazing album. I don't disagree, but if Blood Incantation hadn't already released Hidden History of the Human Race last year, I would think this was a really fantastic album. It's great, it's complex, it's well written, it's good at a lot of things, but is it reinventing any wheels? Is it blazing any new paths whatsoever? Not really. It's got a nice clean sound to it. It's fun, clicky kind of death metal, but it sounds a little bit too much like the current era of blood incantation that we know and love. And that's not bad whatsoever. I was maybe kind of expecting something a little bit more different. Maybe something, without knowing, maybe something more like Defeated Sanity or something more complex or violent or different or whatever. There's only so much, you know, originality you can bring to this kind of thing in this day and age, but it's good. I just wouldn't say it's as amazing as maybe a lot of people are saying it is. Ooh, spicy words. How about some vinyl? Also picked up some reissues of some Norwegian black metal classics. Drepte Kristna by Troll. Yeah. Track 3 on here, Trollberg. Man, what an iconic intro. Been a fan of this album for many, many years. I should get this out because this vinyl looks fucking sick. Reissued by the same label that did the Trollstorm over Knitting 10-inch that I showed a couple of videos ago. The Devil's Elixirs is the name of this label. Can't get too close. We have a poster of the album cover. I honestly don't know why you would want that. It's a pretty cheesy album cover, but whatever, that's your thing. Nice heavy cardstock insert. This Devil's Elixirs label is doing great work. The quality on this is fucking fantastic. Troll were a Norwegian black metal band, as you all should know. Look at that shit. Started by, is it Nagash? Back in '93, before he joined Dimmu Borgir. And so if you're at all a fan of early Dimmu Borgir, and you haven't checked out Troll, do so at once. Killer stuff. Love that this is finally on 12-inch, available to the masses. Also in the similar vein, I don't know how like coincidental it is, this also was reissued on 12-inch recently. You saw Matt the Dark Path talk about this recently, but here is Covenants in Times Before the Light. Finally on 12-inch for the first time. I have owned the double LP. I've owned the CD original Mordgrim release for years and years and years. I've just kind of always overlooked it, I guess. And my buddy Dave recently was like, "Hey dude, that In Time Before the Light LP is up at Hell's Headbangers for pre-order right now, you better get on it." And I was like, you know what, I'm good, whatever. But I wound up listening to it again and I was like, fuck, I missed out. So then a couple of days later, I think Nuclear War Now popped up with it for a pretty nice fucking price, honestly. So I slammed that buy now button. Another early Norwegian black metal classic, only Cosmic Key Creations put this one out. They also do amazing fine work. No inserts on this one. You shouldn't need it, it's a double LP. You got all you need right there. Killer stuff. I honestly was kind of pissed off at how I had always thought that album was more forgettable than it was upon re-listening to it. I really liked it. There's some fucking vicious, evil, really great riffing going on. And even added to that, there's tons of nice, while I'm talking, I should be holding it up. There's some really amazing orchestral kind of proto-symphonic black metal going on that is rudimentary before that kind of thing got really out of hand, a la Dimmu Borgir, Cradle of Filth, etc. But Covenant were keeping it real back then. Fucking teenagers. Also, my buddy Lonnie, Classy Metal Lonnie, sent me the new Necrot album, which is fantastic, but he also threw in a bunch of other goodies. This is one of them. This is, if I'm not mistaken, the most recent release from Raunacht. If you can't pronounce something, just add extra to it, and you should be able to you know, kind of get it somewhere in there. This is Zeitgeist. Super fun, riffy, pagan black metal with lots of cheesy synth going on. Hammerheart Records put this out. I believe you can get a pretty cheap copy of this on Discogs, double LP, for pretty fucking cheap. And man, Raunach is fucking great shit. If this is your wheelhouse, clear vinyl. If like pagan, folky, kind of European black metal is your wheelhouse whatsoever, Raunach are doing it super well. I was blown away. Lonnie, if you're watching this, thank you so much. I'm spinning this quite a bit. Really like these guys. If you saw a couple of videos ago, probably 30 videos ago if I'm being honest, I believe Raunach is the solo project of one member of Sturmpercht, which is, I believe they're from Romania, as well as Raunach. I might be wrong about that. But, so, Sturmpercht is a lot like Raunach. If you like the more folky instrumentation, the more acoustic kind of stuff, Sturmpercht takes that, less metal. I believe it's all acoustic kind of stuff, folky kind of stuff. It is awesome. Check out Raunach, Zeitgeist. Thank you, Lonnie, for sending me that. You didn't have to be so kind. A couple more CDs and then I'll let you go. I've been a fan of this album for many years. Talking about Blotted Science with, what is it? The Machinations of Dementia. So, if you're at all aware of Spastic Inc., it's like this shreddy metal kind of proggy weirdness from the 90s. This is kind of like the second iteration of that insanity from 2007. Ron Jarzombek is the guitar player, and he's like the main mastermind behind this whole style of music, honestly. Ron Jarzombek is the guitar player, brother of drum extraordinaire Bobby Jarzombek, who has played with Asian Steel, Riot, Judas Priest, I believe, Iced Earth. Tons and tons of just shreddy kind of stuff. And Bobby Jarzombek, Ron Jarzombek, is an absolute shred monster. But not only that, he really defines his own style and offers uniqueness to this style in droves. And that is why I am a pretty devout fan of Ron Jarzombek's stuff. So this is a more like death metaled out kind of iteration of his style, only there's no vocals. This is Ron Jarzombek on guitar with just absolutely insane compositions, with Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse on bass, which is kind of interesting. He really brings the girth and the heaviness, as well as, I want to say there's two drummers in this band, but maybe only one on this one. The drummer Charlie Zeleny from Behold the Arctopus, killer band. I think they have a new album out this year. Yeah, just shredding it up in a super fun way. I want to say this is kind of like self-released or on a kind of small town kind of label. Didn't really get a lot of fanfare, so it's kind of hard to track up. Good thing I fucking dropped it. Tracked down a copy of this for a good price for me, being the cheap ass that I am, but I decided to splurge. I think I spent like $15 on this. And for an album that came out like 13 years ago, that's cool. I don't know, there's this kind of theme going on with this album about the brain and the psyche and bleeding in the brain, night terror, the insomniac, sleep deprivation, and on and on. It's super fun, it's memorable and weird. It's really my wheelhouse of kind of like oddball, left of center kind of stuff. Also picked up out of that dude's collection, Undergang, Misanthropology. couple years ago when this first came out in 2016, everybody was losing their goddamn mind about this, and I listened to it and I thought, you know, I'm not seeing it. It's okay. Keep on seeing it over and over and over again. People are just fucking lifting this album up like it's some godly kind of masterpiece. So, bought it out of this dude's collection for a couple of bucks, and I'm not seeing it. I don't think this is really a band worth freaking out about. It's great, carcassy, kind of grindy, modern death metal kind of thing. I honestly thought that Hyperdontia was quite a bit better than this album is. I listened to it 2 or 3 times in a week or so, and it just didn't really do it for me. So, I'm not saying it's a piece of shit. I'm not saying it sucks. Just, there's better stuff out there, guys. Alright, this is going to be a pretty poopy episode. The Funeral Orchestra with Negative Evocation Rights. I read a review kind of deal, bio, whatever, of this band on the Nuclear War Now site, and I was pretty interested. I thought this sounded like something out of the ordinary, maybe better than something like this would ordinarily wind up being. A couple of bonus tracks on here. I thought if something about the Nuclear War Now brand makes me think that's probably pretty good if Nuclear War Now is putting it out. But I was wrong. I guess he's just like maybe doing exclusive distribution in the US or whatever for Blaze Productions. This wasn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be. So, I don't know. Maybe it's not my wheelhouse. This kind of thing is kind of lost on me. I'm doing my Doomtober series, and as I've said in that video, this kind of thing, this doomy kind of stuff, it's kind of hit or miss for me. It's got to be like really well done and have some substance to it. And the Funeral Orchestra, I thought, would either have some like atmospherical cleverness to it, or maybe some musical originality to it on offering. But I didn't really find anything really of substance with this album, Negative Evocation Rights. So yeah, maybe someday it'll hit the mark, but right now, So as a lot of you may begrudgingly be aware of, I'm not the biggest Celtic Frost fan. I think Tom G. Warrior's riffs are pretty stupid. I think Hellhammer kind of writes dumb riffs. I think a lot of Celtic Frost. Okay, like, look. I could go on. I shouldn't. I don't like Celtic Frost. But, I remember Monotheist being, like, kind of okay. So, I bought a copy of it. I'm still in the process of figuring out how to like this album, I guess. I wouldn't necessarily say that this bears much resemblance to the earlier Celtic Frost stuff. As much as you can try and reinvent yourself after an era like Cold Lake and all that other stuff, honestly, I think he should have changed his name before Cold Lake came out. I think he could have had a lot more success calling that some other band. I think Cold Lake is a decent record, but I don't know. I just have kind of a hard swallow relationship with Tom G. Warrior and everything he does. But this is a lot more thought out. Maybe it's, you know, if Celtic Frost were a band that started maybe in like 1990, and this was their first or second album, and it came out in 93, 94 or something, I could maybe have a easier time figuring out how to like this band. But Monotheist is kind of, it's different, but it's a little too similar to early Celtic Frost. There's just something about how fucking ham-fisted the riffs that he writes are, and the way that he just kind of grunts vocals. I understand the influence of Celtic Frost cannot be understated in tons of bands that I love. Dark Throne, of course. But, I don't know. it may be a generational thing. It may be just that I never really had Celtic Frost in my appetite when I was first getting into metal and like understanding the stylistic tenets of what goes on in this world. But yeah, it just doesn't hit its mark with me whatsoever. Not saying I regret buying this whatsoever, but I just don't love Celtic Frost. And there's a lot of bands in my discography that I don't love, that I own fucking 8 copies of some of their albums. No big deal. Need to weed out some of that shit eventually. But for now, that's a collection update under the influence of libations. Thank you for watching! I hope you liked it. Stay safe. Don't be a dick. We'll see you next time.